age comes for us all. And we still feel, I think you and I, that we still have so much to go, that I feel like our potential to grow outweighs the decline of age because of where we are in our journeys, which is exciting. But in a place where you're like, hey, I'm already kind of peaking my potential, and then age is coming for me, I think going to trail is what we typically see.
I'd like to think I can still get faster. We're not professional athletes who have reached our peak.
Exactly.
So what I saw is, of course, our fast twitch fibers, the ones that help us run faster.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not using them, they do decline. So I think a lot of what we already have spoken about, the strength work.
Yes.
The plyometrics, that's really important.
The strides. The beautiful thing is running economy can keep improving. Aerobic development, just continuing year after year for more, decades more, is going to actually lead to a better aerobic base.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of Two Average Runners with me, Hugh, and my co-host, Alice. How are you doing today, Alice?
Well, being in the UK, we would be amiss not to mention that I'm sitting in a heat wave. So you guys have just told me to turn my fans off and my air conditioning. So probably at about 45 minutes, I'll be sweating too much to continue. So it might be a shorter episode.
Yeah, it might be a short episode.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's so cute. You're like, oh, it's 37 degrees Celsius.
I knew,
I'm like,
Mr. Texas, that you would probably have something to
that's
say.
37 degrees Texas every day, but we have some beautiful air conditioning in all our houses in Texas. And
I'm sure
cars.
that when it snows, then it's national news for you. Always
it is. And those rare occasions when it actually does snow. But I want to hear about it. So give us your scores, Alice. How has the last week been for running and from family?
Yes, let's go family and life. Made a big move. I'm now in St. Albans for a month. Decided to, of course, move in this heat wave week. So I had to trek all my things in 30s. I love this thing. I don't know what you think. Let's just interject here. 7 feels like 40. I mean, why don't they just say 40? I just don't understand the feels like thing. It's but then it is 40. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so 37 feels like 40. I move all my things here to this Airbnb and it's not as advertised. So I had to get my head around that, but that's fine. I trained as a medical doctor to do community service in South Africa. So I've definitely stayed in worse places with rats running around and all sorts of things. So, I could pull myself together and say, you'll get used to it. And sure enough, within 12 hours, I'm kind of like, okay, I've unpacked, I've settled in and I'm going to be fine. So actually it's scores wise for the week. I'm giving it a 7 or 8 because I feel like I've had positive changing my circumstances a little bit. And I'm feeling good about that, feeling excited. And I'm going into London this weekend to spend time with Dale and my lovely golden retriever, Monty. So I'm looking forward to doing that. So bar the heat wave, it's been a good week on that front.
Great.
Running, I am going to give it about a 7 because I've had quite a consistent week last week and this week.
And you're back. You're back running after the flu.
I'm back. I did about 115 kilometers last week and some good sessions. Of course, this week, something's happened. I'm sitting here now with some ice on my ankle. I don't know what's happened, but my ankle has got a sharp stabbing pain. I'm going to ignore it, put some ice on it and carry on. And if it doesn't go away, I'll go and see my physio. And maybe we'll chat about it later. Having had, my coach and I looked at my year and we've had 6 months of some good mileage and some good runs, but not a lot of intensity, not a lot of work on the higher end. So my fitness is nowhere near where it should be. But then again, I'm also running in this heat. So it's also hard to judge. But my top end is much lower than it would have been, say, a year ago. And I've got this 10K race coming up, which will probably greatly expose that. So that will also be interesting. But we can maybe chat a little bit more about that. Because of course, my mind, I'm like, I'm 47 and that's it. I'll never run it fast again. Well, not that I was ever that fast, but I'll never run faster than this. This is it. But maybe we can chat about that. But no, it's been nice exploring new routes and we can chat about that a bit as well. But all good. And I've got a big weekend of running up ahead. Nice. So I'm looking forward to it. And how about you?
I think on the sort of personal family side, life side of things, I think about a 7.
Okay, good.
I had a lovely Father's Day this past weekend.
Oh, yes. Happy Father's Day.
Which was great. And then we had a lovely brunch, and then did some fun playing, with little Henry at the Pearl and in the splash pad. And they had big screen up for the World Cup and things like that. So that was kind of a really nice
Are people there watching the football, soccer, whatever you guys call it?
Yeah, they are watching football or soccer, they'd call it over here. Yeah, I think it's funny in San Antonio. We have such a big Hispanic community. They're super behind the Mexican team, obviously.
Okay, cool.
So
okay.
I went past a bar the other, like maybe a week ago, and it was packed. I was like, "What the hell is happening here?" And it was because Mexico was playing.
Yes.
And so, but no, people are starting. They have big screens up in a lot of places. I think it's going to get more fun. I think once we get to the knockout stages. Right, where it's like when you have one good right now in the group stage, you have one good team and then one absolutely rubbish team. It's like I don't love soccer enough to really be like wanting to go and sit in the park to watch it or go to some group, sort of watch party or something like that. But I think as it starts to get more heat up, a bit more competitive as we get into the knockout stages, I think people will be paying more attention. I might even pay more attention as well.
Yeah,
but that's personal. I was in
also get stuck in at the knockout stage.
Yeah, and then I was also this past week I was in New York.
Oh yes,
I had a work trip, so that was really great. It was really productive. A good session with the client I have there. And it's just fun to be back in New York. And it actually wasn't too hot. I've been to New York in summer and it can be quite, steamy and humid. But I think it was way nicer than London. So quite pleasant to walk around. It was a little cool in the morning. I got one really nice run in Central Park, which is always good. Nice. Running in a new place. Overall, I think I'd give my run in maybe a 5. Mainly, I have been struggling with scheduling and all the responsibilities to get the runs in consistently as I want to. And certainly, quite a few of them have just been it's been a shorter run to get something, which is better than nothing. Though I actually did an interval workout on the treadmill yesterday. And that went better than expected. It was actually my trainer was like, "Hey, I've got this interval workout for you," and I don't have a running coach right now, and I have really been like you were saying, I've been neglected, or I've purposely deprioritized a lot of intensity over the last sort of 3 to 4 months, just focusing on just trying to get some volume, consistent, easy running. And obviously, I've been focused so much on the strength, both in the gym and then in terms of the vertical on the runs. But he's like, he trains a lot of boxers, fighters.
Okay.
It's like, this is what I take my boxers through this workout. And it was a typical sort of 2-to-1 work to rest ratio, but starting off 4 minutes and then 2 minutes with a couple of 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 minutes on to 1 minute off, kind of a couple of reps, then 1 minute, then, 30 seconds. And each time ratcheting up the speed.
So by the end, it was fartlek almost in a way.
Yeah, almost like a fartlek. It was sort of almost like an increase in interval session in terms of the intensity and the time. So by the end, I think, we were going through sort of, what for me would be so the early interval was now marathon pace. Then it was more 10K pace, 5K pace, then probably more 3K to a mile pace.
Okay. Well,
for the 30 seconds. And, and it was probably 30, 40 minutes in total, but there wasn't a lot of rest. That was the big thing. It wasn't really, so it was kind of fun just to do something different. And I think my one little takeaway there is that particularly when you aren't focusing on so much intensity, sometimes throwing in some intensity. And in a way, it was more like a fartlek. It was really not I wasn't trying to do a VO2 max workout or something specific for my goals, but it was kind of fun to get to spice it up a bit.
Cool.
That's the week.
Brilliant. So what do you want to jump into?
So I want to hear 2 things. I want to hear about how are you coping with running in this heat? And I think we actually even had a listener question. It sort of ties in, which is with this hot weather, what do you do with your running? How do you manage it? And obviously for me, it's I have to live in Texas. I kind of deal with the running side in the heat side of things quite a lot. So I'm curious first with you to hear this is kind of new news, new experience. How are you doing with the heat?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm South African, so I'm kind of used to the heat there, but as you said,
but you got all soft. You've been so soft in the UK, with this mild weather the past how many years? I'm just kidding.
But I have had you in my mind because I've been thinking, this is probably a bit of what it's like for you. So the UK, I heard in a different podcast this week, it's very true. We get up very, very late here. Run clubs meet at 9 a.m. I mean, if you're on the road before 7, you're maybe one of the only persons. So I often get up at 6 only, which for compared to South African time, that's quite late. People are already running. The gyms, they're open 5:30 and the queue is long. So, I guess I have I have moved to the running a bit later. So I'm often only starting my run at 7. So I kind of think, well, if it really is that hot, you might want to go earlier. Now, one of the reasons I haven't is because of heat training.
Yeah.
So I actually don't mind the heat because I quite like a bit of the sort of suffering feeling. I mean, I really do sweat a lot and I see my heart rate obviously is a bit higher and things are harder. Or let's say I don't usually get much drift, your heart rate picking up at the end of most runs, and then I'll get a bit more of that. Like I'll notice, okay, this easy run is now suddenly not as easy as it was with 20 minutes to go. That kind of thing I've noticed.
Yeah.
But I'm really decided I'm not going to change too much because I think it's actually important to probably capitalize on getting the heat in. So many of the majors, I mean, last year I ran Berlin, it was 28 degrees. It was over 20 at the start, and I was one of the first groups to go off. London this year wasn't that hot, but it definitely wasn't, 15 or 16 degrees. Obviously, I'm talking Celsius here. London the year before was really hot. So I think we all have to kind of prepare ourselves that races are hot, especially the races here. I'm running a 10K in 2-3 weeks. I think it only starts at 9:30.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's gonna be hot.
Yes, it's done by 10 or 10:30. I mean, it won't be 10 for me. But it is already getting hotter. I think that what I think the difference might be here when I'm in St. Albans at the moment, but when I'm in London is everything is very hot because there's buses and cars and the pavements are very hot. So it's a little bit different to here. Today I ran an amazing route, chat about it later, but even though it was hot, there were trees and there was a bit of a breeze and I didn't have a hot bus steaming on me, that kind of thing. So I'm not really doing anything different. Maybe around the run, I'm sure I'm drinking more. And actually I ran carrying water in a soft flask last weekend, which I could fill up at water fountains on the way. So that kind of a thing. That's the only real difference. And I might wear a hat, and I don't normally wear a hat. That's kind of it for me. I don't know. What are your top tips?
I mean, I think so.
Coming from Wales and now being in Texas, so it couldn't be more different.
I mean, so I think there's a couple of things. One, generally run earlier. I tend to run earlier. I think we tend to always do that here in Texas.
Yeah. So what time do you run in summer?
So this morning it was... Well, this morning we met at 5:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And then I always embrace in summer, you guys, and because I'm not going near the tracks, I'm not violating any Alice rules here. Run shirtless. Because it's like, there's nothing worse than getting so sweaty and then the shirts will, even if it's a good running shirt, I just find that that's like, as minimal clothing as possible, so to speak.
Yeah.
It is interesting, just one side note, at least here in San Antonio, sometimes the humidity is worse at 5:30 than at 7. And
is
so
it can sometimes... not been any breeze or something?
Yeah, and sometimes at 5:30 it just sort of feels very swampy. And 7, the sun's not really up and hot yet, but it sort of doesn't feel quite as heavy. But, you can't really plan too much for that one. So I generally get out there early. For me, the real trick in summer is sort of running on more an effort and feel.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
then not, I try not in summer to rigidly, even if there was a workout, it's like I try to focus on 5K effort, not 5K pace, because it's like some of the things like the paces will be slow at the same effort. So if I try to hit paces, I might be doing a much harder workout, which maybe is okay. That. And it's like, it's not, I don't think you have to be like super rigid, but I generally try to like, put the pressure off of just trying to achieve whatever it needs to achieve. And then you can enjoy it more. And I do think there is something about like suffering, a little bit of suffering. You sort of like, but it's good. Sometimes you get a good sweat on, you feel like, wow. And then I think the third thing, the most important thing, well, actually, I'm going to get to 4. What am I doing here? The third thing is hydration. Like you said, definitely hydrate, electrolytes. So I always try to carry something with me, mostly in summer. But I think the fourth one, which you said, is like, I think the mental reframe is like, you can think about this as like, it sucks, it's hot. And it's like, no, this is heat training. Like some of the best athletes are training in places that are naturally kind of warm.
Exactly.
Right. And heat. I mean, I think in the US, like one of the big places to train is Flagstaff in Arizona.
Yeah.
And that has both altitude, but then has the heat. And I think people get really well heat adapted, in that process. And then if races are warm, I think it's really great for that. So, be able to deal with hot conditions. So those are some of the tips the things that and then I tend not to run in the evenings, though I know some people do. If I do run during the day, I do try to think about where I could run to have shade. It's so interesting how like just even being in some shade can make a ton of like some tree shade, even if it's we can run along the river here, but there's a section that's quite tree aligned, and then there's another section that's like super open and very exposed, and it's so different how much just like even just like that perception.
Yeah, it does make a big difference. Even if like the sun moves behind a cloud briefly, it changes it. I quite like the feeling of the sun, but it does make it much hotter. But yeah, like Tuesday, I went to track before I did my move in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And it was 900 meters that were getting faster with a 100-meter jog. And I went to effort rather than pace. And I could see, I mean, I still did quite well, all things considered, but like the 100-meter jog, it was more of a walk.
Yeah.
Going back into the 900 meters. And I decided it's fine. Just go to effort, do your best, and just at least try and get all the intervals done. But I see lots of people I follow on social media as runners have, dropped 5-10 seconds off their pace.
Oh, easy.
Taken a bit longer to do their recoveries, etc. So I think it is just kind of be willing to adjust, but try and stick it out is kind of what I've been doing.
And one other thing that was really cool, it's like I think being comfortable that the paces are going to be slower, even though the keying off effort and feel is, I'm someone who often will look at heart rate, and it's okay. I find in the heat, it's okay. I can look at the heart rate for maybe just the first 5 or 10 minutes, right? Like early on, I could sort of like, I usually know roughly what the heart rate is going to look like. But then 30 to 45 minutes to an hour into a run, the heart rate is irrelevant, because if you just said, oh, I'm not going to let my heart rate get, X, the heart rate drift can be so much in the heat that it's like, well, we're going to, it's actually not necessarily productive to just completely slow to a crawl just to get the heart rate back below some arbitrary level. It's sort of like, hey, how does it feel? If it's meant to be easy, if it's meant to be steady, is it that? Do I feel like I'm still running easy? Because I might look at it and be like, wow, my heart rate's actually like, high zone 2 or maybe it's into zone 3. And it's like, that's just like the drift.
Yeah, exactly.
So, good listener question, cool. And also so relevant for you right now.
Yeah, hopefully it cools down a bit next week.
Oh, I got one other trick as well, which is like this is for the achievers out there, like Hugh and Alice. I think I discovered this last year. There's a plugin on Strava called like .me, I think is what it's called, do.me. And it's sort of like you connect your Strava, and I think you might pay like $1 or $2 a month, something like that. It's pretty nominal. But what it does is on every run, it then posts in the description an adjusted pacing based on feel, so it looks at the temperature where you are and where the run. It also looks at the winds in case you had headwinds and stuff like that. And then it will then calculate like a true pace. And I think it's kind of cool. Every time in the summer, the true pace is always like 20 to 30 seconds per mile quicker. Wow. And so what's kind of nice is you might be like, oh, I think is like, I thought I was like, I'm running, wow, I thought I was running easy and it was a 9-minute mile. Like, oh man, but it's like, oh no, it was actually like equivalent of like 8:30. It's like, oh, that feels more like what I was expecting, or whatever it is for the relative. And that's nice because that's, that self-judgment about like even opening up Strava later and being like, oh my God, I was so much slower. But then it's like, oh no, but and sometimes it'll be like, it'll do extremes, like, the rate is like 9 out of 10, like Sufferfest, and has a picture of someone like the puking emoji, like, and then and you're like, oh yeah, it really was grossed out there. So anyway.
Well, that's cool. I haven't heard about that one before, but it makes sense. So, and what else is on your mind at the moment?
So, I mean, speaking of heat, and then a funny one in contrast, which is, a couple of episodes ago, we talked about Western States, right? Yeah. And we are recording this on Friday, and it's Western States kicks off tomorrow morning.
Okay, so I can get into it.
And so it is a packed field of elite runners. So Jim Walmsley, who's won the race 4 times, but has been injured a bit the last few years. He didn't even race any. He would need to qualify this year and didn't do any of the races, but got a sponsor spot with Hoka. He's a Hoka athlete, and everyone thinks that's awesome. I mean, I think it's awesome. I mean, the guy should be able to run anywhere. 4-time champ in his prime should be allowed to come back and toe the start line. So I'm excited to see him, Killian Jornet, who's won the race in 2011. So what was that? 15 years ago. He got third. He came back last year for the first time since, came third, and I think he means business. So there's and then lots of young guns. The women's field is so stacked. Molly Seidel is running. She got a golden ticket. And if you remember, Molly Seidel was a marathon bronze medalist in Paris Olympics. And she moved to the trails this past year. I got to see her in person at Bandera. She ran the 50K.
Was she in
the
the marathon bronze, or what distance?
Marathon bronze. Yeah, marathon bronze in Paris. Obviously, she was a, NCAA champion track athlete, very, 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 but she got burnt out on the roads.
Okay.
And all the pressure and so she's been finding a lot of joy moving to the trails and having more more freedom. And obviously she just has so much raw speed and talent. Mm-hmm. So to see lots of runners, we've talked a bit about this. I'm like, Alice, come to the trails. And sometimes it is where it's I can't keep improving. Age age comes for us all. And we still feel, I think you and I, that we still have so much to go, that I feel like our potential to grow outweighs the decline of age because of where we are in our journeys, which is exciting. But in a place where you're hey, I'm already kind of peaking versus my potential, and then age is coming for me. I think going to trail is what we typically see, and we've seen that in ultras. We've rarely seen someone like Molly, who's in her prime, come over to the trails. So it's a big race tomorrow, and you know what's interesting? Now we're talking about it. It looks to have potentially one of the lowest temperatures on record. Oh, really? So Western Stairs is known, it's got these canyons which go, down to the river and back up over and over, and they get hot. So they're, at the aid station, it might be 40 degrees, and it might be, in the high, mid 40s or higher in the canyons, or the depth of the canyons. Whereas this year, I think those temperatures are going to be in the low 30s or high 20s, which means a dramatic difference in terms of how fast people will run. So should be fun. It's being live streamed as well on YouTube.
Try and give it a watch.
Yeah, it starts at 5 a.m. Pacific time. So that's going to be on in the background during the day on Saturday. I'm very excited. It's it's such a fun one to watch and to see the race play out, over a day. The course record for the men is just over 14 hours. And there's a lot of talk that everyone thinks it's that course record, that people are going to go under 14 hours on this course tomorrow. So yeah. So I'm excited about that. What about you? What are you excited about right now?
What am I excited about? I can't really think what I'm excited about, but I was just thinking about when you were talking now about Molly and age.
Yes.
It was something that has been on my mind this week because, and I sort of said it a bit in the intro, that the last 6 months I've not been doing much intensity. So my threshold is definitely a lot lower. Mm-hmm. And, trying to sort of string some consistent weeks together with this 10K that's looming. Yes. And trying to sort of work a little bit on the top end stuff, knowing now it's safe to do so. I don't have a stress fracture, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But noticing how hard it is and struggling, and then actually just looking, my coach and I, as I said, we looked, and I haven't had my last big week was early April. Mm-hmm. And before that, we really did hardly any speed stuff. So I'm also trying to be a little bit kind to myself and say, I'm not going to expect to suddenly be back where I was. However, it is in the back of my mind, this age factor. So do we actually get slower as we get older? Because you see all sorts of different things out there. And I looked it up, and I think that if you're well trained and you're training well, you may lose 0.5% of your threshold each year. So it's about a second per kilometer. So if your threshold's 345, you might go to 346.
Okay.
So per year, it's not too bad. Over 10 years,
sure,
probably makes a difference. I'm interested that you say that, yes, I'd like to think I can still get faster. We're not professional athletes who have reached our peak.
Exactly.
So what I saw is, of course, our fast twitch fibers, the ones that help us run faster.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not using them, they do decline. So I think a lot of what we already have spoken about, the strength work.
Yes.
The plyometrics, that's really important.
The strides, all those kind of things to keep
because
that top
one
end.
of the big problems as we're getting older, it's maximum heart rate drops.
Mm-hmm.
So what it means is we're not pushing out as much blood volume, the stroke volume sort of drops. So you can't necessarily circulate as much oxygen, which could impact your VO2 max. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're well trained, you can really try and, maybe that's not going to be too much of an issue. Like for me, I know I've got it's based on my watch, but I've got still, even if my watch is relatively beats 5 points either side, it's still pretty good. So probably, but yes, our heart rate is dropping. But the other big problem is our muscles are.
And that's why I think the strength is so important for, aging athletes. It's definitely one that I wish I had focused a bit more sooner, but I'm still thrilled that I'm like making such a priority right now, not like wait until the 50s or 60s. But again, I think wherever you are, start now. It's just like, that is just such a, and I think it's so, I think it helps for injury prevention. But I think that is the real thing, because like the beautiful thing is running economy can keep improving. Aerobic development just continuing year after year for like more, decades more is going to actually lead to like a better aerobic base.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. Endurance athletes as they get older, because your running economy is good, or maybe even better than some other people because you've been running for so long.
Yes.
And you've got that big aerobic base. You may not be as fast on the shorter distances like your 5Ks, but over a marathon, you can still actually do really well. So
absolutely. And certainly then as soon as you get to ultra then, because at that point, then you're really pretty much running at like LT1, like the first, the aerobic threshold, like top of Z2. You're not really, you might be pushing a bit on climbs, but even unlike the marathon where you're still sort of like, trying to compress that,
yes,
the aerobic with the anaerobic LT1, LT2, up to LT1, up to LT2, and the speed of that one. But I think it's an exciting potential that like by us being average runners, like it's fun that we can keep improving, right?
Yeah,
and I think that's what's kind of cool.
That is good to see. So I just think I'm not putting a lot of pressure on myself with the 10K. It's in, as I say, about 3 weeks, but I'm going to use it more as a benchmark.
Yeah.
See where I'm at. I'd like to be faster than I was at that race last year, but I also feel like I'm not as fit as I was then.
Yeah.
But let's see. I'm still hoping a bit of speed can come on in the next couple of weeks of training. So we'll see how it goes. But on that note, I think, remember some weeks ago, we discussed that my coach has put all these sessions in for me to do half an hour at marathon pace and then go into park run. So last Saturday morning, I got to Battersea Park really early, and annoyingly, the change rooms were closed. So I kind of had to get ready and dump my stuff in some bushes, which was giving me a lot of stress because I decided to take the very high risk approach and even leave my phone in this bag, which I think is like really foolish. So just before I hit my marathon pace block, I'd done my warm up. I saw the change rooms had opened. So I'm diving into the bushes. I'm getting my stuff. I'm locking it in the change rooms. Now I'm running a bit tight on time because I've had this hiatus to, first of all, taken longer to get ready because I'm finding bushes to change. Then I'm breaking after my warm up. So that park run starts at 9. I think it starts at 9 everywhere in the world.
Yes.
So I timed it that I would have a little bit of a breather, but now I was really up against it. So I'm doing my marathon pace block around Battersea Park, and I don't see anyone setting up for parkrun. So then I start thinking, okay, well, maybe parkrun's not happening. Then I just took another high risk approach. I thought I'll quickly go to the loo and then I'll run to parkrun. So basically went to the loo, came out, and then I saw a whole lot of people standing where parkrun starts, but I couldn't see anyone official, but there were people standing there. So I'm in my carbons, I leg it across the grass thinking, well, now I'm going to have to go straight to after having just done like a sort of 300 meter sprint. I got there, the group of people went off. So it was too late. But then when I got there, I realized there is no park run, but the people who had arrived had just done their own effort.
Did you leg it after them?
I stood there for sort of 5 minutes thinking, now what? Because this is my worst possible race. This is bloody 5K. I'm already not as fast on my marathon pace as I was before London. So I'm already going a bit slower. It is quite hot. But then I thought, no, pull yourself towards yourself. Let's do it. So gun went in my head. I did the 2 laps.
Nice.
And it wasn't a great time, but, I just started as usually a little bit too fast, slowed down, and then picked it up. I think I only didn't even go under 20. I think I was just over 20 minutes, which I thought for a solo effort.
For solo effort,
considering I haven't run for ages.
Was this before the heat wave, or was it warm? Yeah, I think that's impressive for warm as well.
Yeah. So I think, but it was I decided to see it as I'm curious to see how this will be. So now tomorrow I am actually going back to London tonight, and I'm staying right near Battersea Park. So I will not be wrestling with the change rooms and whether they're open. Excellent. I will run straight from where I'm staying to the park. I'll do my marathon pace, and I will give myself 10, 15 minutes to get ready for park run. I'll have a gel, and I will hopefully find somebody to sit behind and get it over with. So let's see if I can go under 20 minutes this week, even though I've got the heat wave.
I love it.
So yeah.
That's fun. Okay, that's cool. One thing I was wondering about with your, this month in St. Albans, I feel like we've had a question before about like, how do you choose where to live?
Yeah.
Or when you're trying to choose a way to live when you think about running. And then sometimes you don't really have that choice, right? Sometimes you just end up choosing where to live and then you figure out where to run there. So I'm curious, this month in St. Albans, what is is running in St. Albans like? You've got a new place.
Hilly.
That sounds great.
Hilly.
Is
and
hilly
actually
good?
It was really cool. I went on my first easy run on the day after I got here and, completely lost. I never run with my phone. So I had my phone and I found this area called the Valerium. It's some like old Roman.
Cool.
I don't know. There was a Roman camp. There was a Roman town. There was a something in this green space. I just kind of in the town of St. Albans. So I had looked on the map. I thought, oh, this is great. I'm going to run around it. But there wasn't far to run. You could run up and down, up and down. So anyway, I ran some loops around there. But if you left this Valerium area, you just went straight up very steep hills. So I did quite a few rolling hills, came home, logged it on Strava. And one of my Strava friends said, oh, that's my neck of the woods. Like, good luck. St. Albans is very hilly. However, the St. Albans way, this is all just thanks to Strava, the St. Albans way is about as flat as you can get and not too bad. So that's what I did this morning. So thanks to Ed, my Strava friend.
Excellent.
And I headed down there and it was a very nice path that runs kind of parallel to maybe, I think it's an old railway line. So it's kind of going between the little villages, but it is tarred. People are cycling, they're walking their dogs, trees the whole way. Everyone was morning, waving. 2 guys, topless guys, because they're taking advice to keep cool in the heat. High-fiving me on the one way and then high-fiving on the way back. So I thought I actually was a bit lost at the start. Some guy said, oh, you look lost. I said, yes, I'm looking for the St. Albans way. I mean, compared to London, this is just like unheard of. So I actually had a really lovely run out this morning. And yesterday I saw a rabbit. And I've never seen a rabbit on a run in the UK before. So I'm enjoying the countryside, the friendly people, the trees, no London buses, and the rabbits.
The rabbits, exactly. And people are nice and not ignoring you and not stern and not the buses. And that sounds great. I mean, that's what's I kind of love it when you go and stay somewhere new. I obviously love it when I go to a new city for work or anywhere and get to run in a new place and just sort of experience the smells and the sights and the animals or the lack of animals or the noises. I was kind of amazed. So I run a lot in San Antonio, and most of the time I'm either running on my own or with a couple of one of my go-to friends, or maybe the run club. But most of the time I don't see a ton of runners. Like sometimes I see some runners. Well, I ran this week in Central Park. And
loads.
Oh my God.
Really?
It was cool because there's like 2 sort of little roads in the park that are sort of basically for cyclists and runners or walkers, right? So not cars. And one sort of on the east side of the park and then one down the west side. And so many people on bicycles and so many people running and like different packs of runners and so many individuals. And it was a lot. I mean, it was cool. It was like a lot of energy, but there was like so many people. It's like, wow, this is what it's like in a really big city. But I think I saw some pictures you posted on your run in St. Albans.
Yes.
Like they looked. I mean, obviously with it being so sunny right now, very pretty. Yeah. I think having somewhere there with some new nature, and I actually really love those kind of old railway track trails that are sort of tarmacked, as you said, maybe cyclists and walkers and runners, but no cars. And it's great.
It was
if there's
really
some
nice.
shade.
I didn't have to do the traffic light thing. I think only one or two stops at the beginning to sort of figure out where am I going and crossing a road. But I ran for at least 10 kilometers of it where I didn't have to stop for anything. That's like unheard of. Yeah.
And in London, that is unheard of. I love that. Where would you, I've been thinking it's a sort of an interesting topic about where to live to run, if running, or if that is something that is a factor. It's coming up right now with Western States where people are talking about where people have been training. Yeah. And in the US, for a race like Western States, which is in California, I think we talked about it, It's hot in these canyons, very runnable. There's some elevation. It starts in Tahoe in Olympic Valley, so it goes up a ski slope. So there's some altitude. And so a lot of people like to run in a place, a real mecca for running in the US is Flagstaff in Arizona, which is at altitude, but it's like very runnable. And there's also like, I think about an hour and a half from the Grand Canyon, which is also a great place to go and train and run. Where do how do you think about, are there any places, if you were like, which is sort of impractical because we have life and there are certain constraints that have that, but like, what do you think about when you think about like places where you like to live to run?
Well, while I've been looking for different places to stay now, I am looking like, where's there track and are there some places to run? I've even been thinking, because I think ultimately maybe back in London, but maybe more southwest. I've even been thinking today about joining running club. So I think there is something around a bit of a running community. Yes. But I have thought about before, if I did move back to South Africa, I would not really choose necessarily to live in Johannesburg, but it is at altitude and it is quite hot. So I did think to myself, because my coach lives there, like,
good training.
I wonder if that'd be quite good for the training because you're at altitude the whole time. So I mean, ideal world, I would love to live a little bit higher up. And somewhere a bit hotter, but still have all the good running facilities. So I think the UK actually has quite good facilities. You can find tracks in most places. There is a track here in St. Albans. I can't see how and when it opens or that it's been open at all in the last several months, but it says that there's a QR code to book a track spot. You've got to book ahead. So I might try it and see if anyone, but whether there's anyone there to let me in, I don't know. So I guess it sounds to me like probably somewhere in the States is the ultimate. And somewhere in Nevada now also becoming popular with some of the endurance athletes.
Yeah, I think so. There's quite a few of these different sort of areas of meccas. I mean, I think there's also Boulder, Colorado is obviously because you get some altitude there. It's at least a mile up sort of like, and there's lots of trails and it's very active community. And that's where the On Athletic Club.
Yeah.
Helena Beery and like, a lot of the really fast, sort of shorter distance.
Oh, is she there?
Athletes. Yeah, she's part of On.
Okay,
she's there, I did believe in Boulder. So they get the benefit of that. It can be quite hot. It can get quite hot in Denver and Boulder in the summer as well. So they get some heat. And obviously for them, they obviously, have their track and facility and all that, but they can get out on the trail. I think it's interesting. They can also get, I don't think they do it as much. I run up there a couple of times. Above Boulder is a road called Magnolia Road, which is famous. The University of Colorado, cross country team would always train up there. And if Boulder's like 5,500 feet, Mags is up at like 8,700. So it's like real altitude there, and it's kind of a dirt sort of a gravel road, right? But pretty hard packed. So it's not trail. And it kind of sort of like is a little roll in, goes a little down back. And so you can, a lot of road runners go there for training because it's like an altitude workout. And it's like, amazing views while you're there, but it's not on trail. It's just like you just run out one way, run back. And it's, usually a sort of marathon paced effort or some steady effort. So I think there are certain places which really lend itself. It's interesting as well. Like, I mean, Austin's really good for running as well. Austin has this sort of, the river runs through Austin is sort of dammed. And so they call it Town Lake. And the Town Lake loop, the full loop is like 10 miles. And it's all hard packed dirt or then, paved. But it's like, it's not trail. You can always be in your road shoes or your super trainers or whatever you want to be in. It's shaded in a fair amount. And there's lots of good, lots of runners there, obviously. And you never have to cross a road. Right.
Okay.
And so, and what's nice is you can cut over a bridge to do a 3-mile loop, a 5-mile loop, a 7-mile loop, or a 10-mile loop. And when I lived in Austin, I mean, that was having such a good go-to that you can just consistently get like a great, it's a great running route that it's pretty hard to get bored of that one even because it's sort of, you can sort of make some variations there. But for me, what I like is to be able to have better access to the trail. Obviously, for me, when I visit and stay, and so Wales is great. And whenever we go home and visit and spend time, and there, and being able to run out the doorstep, that's kind of the dream to be able to run out on the trail. But then it gets a bit tough. I mean, I'm sure you can find running tracks, but that makes it a bit tougher than obviously some of the like a bigger city. I think being on a coast in the UK could be fun as well because if you like trails, going up and down coastal paths, like on the cliffs.
Are amazing. Yeah. They are fantastic.
And I think some of the other dreams then are things like, living in somewhere like a Chamonix, or like spending time in somewhere.
I was going to say Europe, there's some good spots there.
Yeah. And so where there's like so many high running routes. So I think.
Would you ever think of going on? I've been thinking about going on, go to Kenya, or you don't have to go to Kenya, because you could actually go to Europe, to whichever one it is. Ramo, I can't remember how you pronounce it, but I think it's quite well known for where runners go, because they've got all the facilities quite high up. Ada Stein, who's the sort of Comrades winner, she trains also in Switzerland because of all the hills and the altitude.
Oh yeah.
And then goes down closer to the races. So I sometimes think if I had the money and the time, I would love to do a 4 weeks at altitude. They say you need to go for at least 3 or 4 weeks, because the first week you have to go really easy.
Yeah, he sucks. Yeah, the adjustment is pretty brutal. Yeah, I think that sounds that sounds amazing. And particularly somewhere like in Europe, where there's so much variation. I think say, sort of Geneva, or, there's in sort of Switzerland, you can often be on one of the lakes. And so you can I think running around a beautiful lake is so cool. But then you can so you can get some flat miles in, but then you can still get up the trail, go up the mountains. I've always wanted to go, and I've never done any running there, sort of running in sort of like Norway. I think that would be really fun, with the fjords, and then going up, you get to go up high, but then the sort of views of, being close to the water, but whilst also sort of climbing. That sounds really, really kind of.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Norway. I mean, you remember my Copenhagen trip?
Yes.
With -10, where we ran in the snow. Yeah, but I think I'd love to just travel more and run more. But living wise, the idea would be altitude, some heat, some good running facilities.
You know what? I actually think, for me, I've talked about it before, the amazing book Once a Runner by John L. Parker. And there's a period in that where he goes to the woods to train. He stays in this one of those A-frame cabins, those?
Yeah.
Where it's and I was oh, this is so cool looking. And I just love the idea of you said, it's an extended period, 2 to 4 weeks or something in a cabin where we like that in the woods, where just each day all you do is run out the door and out some random trail and can sort of go as long as you need to go. I kind of like the idea of be able to do that and not have the sort of the faff of getting to the trail head, sort of but yeah, it's a fun one. It's fun opportunities.
What are you working towards? Because sort of every week you mention, you don't have a race in, you're looking. So have you got any closer to thinking about something to work towards?
Yes and no. So I do have my Colorado trip coming up now in a few weeks, which I'm excited about. And that's basically sort of the 3-day adventure, soft rock, going around the San Juan. So 100 miles over 3 days. And so that will be pretty epic. I'm excited because it isn't a race. And that's good, because I'm not in a place of peaking for a race, but it's also good. Elliot is in a similar place, which is always tougher if one of you is super peak race fitness. So I think we're in pretty similar, both, in decent shape. And I really want to see how well the strength of the legs, because I think without that, without pressure on time as well, I'm excited to see how the big climbs and big descents, I like running downhill. So that's what I really want to see, how the legs. And so that is the most exciting thing, but it's also in both the good and the bad, because it's not a race. I'm not in the same sort of trying to peak for it and the same sort of pressure of getting all the training in. So then it really begs the question, what's next? I mean, truthfully, the thing that's most exciting in many ways was we were talking about Comrades last week on the pod for next year. I'm trying to figure out what it is that's next, that's exciting. And I was, a friend of mine were chatting. It's one of the things that's so hard right now is that you have to plan so far in advance.
Yeah, you do.
And so whether that's, if it's anything you want to do a major, obviously, or any big city marathon, you've got to get registered 6 to 12 months ahead.
Yeah.
And then similarly for these big sort of ultras, I mean, I had gone and paced, remember, at that race Javelina 100 in Arizona, and which was an amazing experience because my friend Courtney crushed it. But with that one there, their registration happens on January 1st and sells out in a day. So Even when
It's
you like
crazy.
June, you'd be like, okay, it'd be really cool to have like a train for a race in November. It's like, well, that's not happening with that particular
Yeah.
race, for example.
You have to really try hard to find bibs for races.
Now, exactly. Now, the one thing which so the closest one to actually being on the calendar is twofold. Well, there's two things. One is like, you remember I was talking about doing one of the last man standing, like the backyard ultras. And there's one locally outside San Antonio in the fall, which I'm going to make sure I'm going to be here for.
Sounds like that's your race.
So I think that's the race, because that's the one where every hour on the hour you go and do the loop and just keep going. And
so cool. You must do it. Then you can tell us all about it.
Yeah, and then it'll be good content for the pod, whatever happens.
Exactly, content. So,
and I think that we have a few of us. I think it's going to be October. Okay. So I think it's October is that one, and it's kind of easy to crew and support because it's in. You just put your chair and your cooler and all your gear at the start finish, and you can. It's easy for people to come and support you and cheer you at the beginning and end of every lap. So that's probably the one that's the most exciting for me. And then I think I always like to have like either a marathon or a half marathon like training block each year. So I just haven't figured out what's the one that's sort of appealing to me. And I need to. And I probably
try
need to
get a bib for Valencia.
Ooh, that's
come and join me.
That's
I just
December.
have to pay for my hotel and my flights.
Well, I have to go and check. I have to see. That might not be practical.
A bib.
Yeah, if I can find myself a bib, it's either that one. The other one, which is
there's no vert.
Yeah, there's no vert. That's good. For a road marathon, I actually quite happy because that's why I'm not super excited about doing the San Antonio Marathon again in December. It's so hilly, which is great. I enjoyed it last year. The Houston Marathon is always flat and fast, and often fast because it's January, and if it's a cold day, it's fast. You can randomly get a hot day in January in Houston, and then it's not as fast.
CIM. When is that? California
That's
Marathon.
another good one. Yeah. But I don't even know. That's usually net downhill. It's I think that's November, December. I need to check. So. I wouldn't be surprised if it's already sold out. That's the crazy thing with some of these ones.
Yeah. Sometimes if you just keep messaging people, you'll find yourself a bib. But
maybe that's a good idea. It's either that one. I have to check with my running group because I think a bunch of people last year went to Indianapolis, which is fast and flat in November.
Okay.
And so I think a few of them are going back to Indy.
That's a good one.
So that's another good one. That's kind of like a Valencia in the sense.
Because I was going to say, I think you need to have one road race.
Oh yeah.
Give yourself. What do you do? 12-week build or how long?
Yeah, usually something like a 12-week build. I think that would be. It all depends on everything, but 12-week of focus build. But hopefully that's building off a good base.
A good base, yeah. It was actually quite funny. I spoke to my coach this week. I said, "So when do you think we'll start the Chicago build?" And she went. Now 16 weeks. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
That's too long. But I only did about a sort of 7-week build for London. So I think she's like, let's get moving.
I think that's great. And when you do a build like that, like the first 4 weeks as well are really build into the build. Exactly. I think it's like, but yeah, I'm excited.
Getting the gym and all of that.
Yeah, and I think for here, it's kind of anything that's sort of a November, December, or January marathon works kind of well because you sort of start to go hard in September, basically, which is sort of like you sort of get through the peak summer and either summer adventures, and then be sort of coming back and like, okay, we're coming into autumn. Let's get a good build on and try to build the speed, build the threshold, build that steady running. I'm excited. Now you've got me excited again. I think those will all build well for because we need those wheels, those speed and wheels for comrades.
Yeah, downhill runs. We got to hit the gym hard. Just to mention, comrades, anyone who's listening who's interested, there's a really good podcast with Nick Bester who likes to call himself Boom Shakalaka, but he's basically like he's a real South African guy. But he's got to run his own running club and he's a coach here in South Africa. He's a 2-marathoner, 290, just under 220. So he's a good runner. Okay. But he interviewed George Kushka 48 hours after his win. And it was a really good interview, really interesting. He spoke about his whole approach to preparing for Comrade. He's got a great Strava to follow. And so much of it was around how he just gets his miles in super early because he works full time as a data scientist. He has to drive into work 5 days a week. He's got a child who looks, 18 months, maybe 2 at best. Yeah. And how he gets all his training done, but also how he's really been planning it for a whole year. And it was interesting because it was the uphill Comrades run. He said that one of the big things he did, because he's got a track history and he's pretty good over lots of distances, is to really work on his threshold, so that he felt that the better his threshold when they're pushing uphill, the person who can hold the best speed at minimal cost, at the least cost, is a person who's going to win. So, and I think that kind of played out for him. So it was a really cool interview. Definitely worth going to take a listen for anyone who's interested. And it's also on YouTube.
Maybe we'll try and put that YouTube link in the show notes so that people make it easy for people to go check out.
And go check out his Strava. Really cool. There's loads of great, he's only 27 and he's already pulled off this great feat. I think he's going to get a bit into marathons. I think he's only got but a 2:13 marathon. He thinks he can get that down, knock a whole lot off, because he has not really done much training specifically for that distance. So yeah, great interview. That was, just something I thought I would share. But nothing else from me today. What about you, Hugh?
No, not really. I think I'd mentioned the only thing that I've just been really noticeable and think about a bit now that we are podcasters is Western States is the biggest race. It's the biggest race on the US and the American ultra running calendar. It's also has the most hype around it. And the world we're in now, there's a lot of people creating content, doing more like sports shows, like, their podcasts are now turning more into like ESPN, sort of like BBC Sport-esque kind of like. And I've just been, life is busy right now, and running, focusing on this race tomorrow, like that's not, I'm excited to see it tomorrow, but like I don't have time to like keep up with everything. And I've been shocked that there isn't just like a simple preview show. Like what in the previous years, like there are a couple of, sort of outlets or, podcast media groups, Single Track and Free Trail. And in the past, they would like have like a 1 hour preview show. It's like, great. I can listen to an hour podcast over a couple of drives or a couple of things. This week, they had like 5 podcasts. They had an hour and 40-minute men's preview, an hour and 30-minute women's field preview. And it's like, this is just too much. This is just too much. It's just too much.
Can't consume it. Yeah.
And it's like, I can't consume it. It's just overwhelming. So that was just one of the things that had been on my mind of sort of, and like you, and you say like, you after Comrades, you got to, this sounds like a really great podcast. That's just one of the things, just like, what is the right amount of content that's out there right now? It just feels like an overwhelming amount.
It's a huge amount.
And I'm very much like, it's interesting. I'm usually like, a big David Roach and Megan Roach. I think I'm like 3 or 4 podcasts behind. I just cannot keep up with all the content right now. So I'm curious, do you find the same thing? Do you get in more time?
Yeah, there's a huge amount. I watch most of it on YouTube now. They've been getting into, there's Spencer Matthews does Untapped. I watch quite a bit of that. It always depends on the guest. There's a guy I love, Callum Goddard, who's like us, an average runner. He has really cool guests, like a real mix of people. All different types of runners. So I've got a few of my favorites. The Roches I sometimes listen to, but I'm way behind on that. I sometimes look to see what's in the show notes. Do I want to listen or not? And then I've been watching Jake Dearden, who is a sort of High Rocks elite guy, but he has some cool guests. So I've kind of been going a bit on who's the guest that I feel like listening to. And then there's some people who've got their vlogs, like some of the triathletes. I like watching the vlogs. So I kind of go through phases where I watch certain things and then I move on to something else. But I could not possibly keep up with all of here we are, another running podcast. So there are loads of them. It's a lot.
Exactly. It is a lot. You got to just find what works. We appreciate everyone who listens to our podcast to hear us shoot the shit about our average running and our distinctly above average ambitions and goals as we look to work towards them. I think that's all we got for this week, right, Alice?
Yeah, we'll have a good weekend.
Yes, you too. Enjoy the World Cup, people, if you're watching. It's starting to get into sort of more exciting action. And then keep the questions coming. It was cool to get some questions around all the heat training, where to run in different places. We also always appreciate the stories and listener comments. So keep them sending us our way, and we'll answer them on future podcasts.
Brilliant. Thanks to you. See you next week.
See you next week, Alice. Take care.
Bye.